So hello, everyone. I'm here with my new friends, Asif and Lucky, and I've been invited to give a jingle according to the name of the show. So I'm going to do my best here. I am the geeko bandito. That's as much as I'll do.
Well, that was good. That was great.
Shows
from
my
my
age
side,
a bit,
ay,
too.
ay, 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 ay.
Ay, 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 ay,
Yeah,
ay,
Oh, those are good.
yeah. And that's a great intro. Well, today we have Thom, and it's going to be hard. We have a special guest, and he's going to really take us down to the weeds, the what it takes to really understand the ins and outs of AI and a lot of what we understand now, the current time and day of what's pushing machine language and AI. Well, we have Thom, and he is just a wealth of information. And we're all going to act like we know what you're saying. We're going to do our best to keep up. But just today is more of education. Today we get to sit back and really hear and understand how this really, from your perspective, has started, and what you feel is, what's happened in the past as far as AI or machine language, and what your experiences are. And we welcome you to the show today. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I got to give you an encouragement because of what you just said. Yesterday, I actually had to look up the reference to a movie title, which was Philadelphia. And I hadn't realized.
Thom Hanks.
Yeah, that movie is approaching its 30-year anniversary. Go figure. That shocked me.
Wow.
But
wow.
I love the lawyer character that Denzel played in that movie, because he would go up to the expert witnesses for the sake of the jury, and he'd say, and explain it to me like I'm a fourth grader. So I never intend to over geek speak anyone, but I found that I do, and it's unintentional. So I want y'all to say, Thom, time out. Explain that back like we're fourth graders. And
okay.
Smart, they just don't have the terminology yet, right? So, but
absolutely.
yeah.
And Thom, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for making the time, because like the purpose of this podcast, what we're realizing is that it's not so much about a specific audience. Anybody who's listening, they actually come to understand that, they probably search themselves on Spotify or Apple Podcast or Google Podcast to see, like, I want to look up AI podcast, and they come to this AI podcast, and they probably have some intuition behind how the AI should work. What we want to do is give them that expectation management, right? Manage your expectation about AI, because not everything is going to turn into a robot, and not necessarily everything will be destructive and dystopian situation, where we could actually get a lot done, because we've been having dystopian theories as long as the humanity has been around, right? We've been waiting for the end day from the first day one, right? So for the AI, it's no different, and we want to hear your perspectives on what gives you the hope, right? What gives you this ability to say, like, I started AI so many decades ago, and yet I've never given up on it, right? Because I think you mentioned earlier about history, like how much you love history, and I know AI has history of 70 plus years. If you just start counting Alan Turing as the first person to, bring that AI technology, or the word that AI, Alan Turing used as the first day of AI, it's been 70 some years. So there's a lot of histories of AI winters and AI summer. We just want to hear everything you have to say. And we have only an hour, so let's do it.
Oh, cool. Well, what keeps me going with it, it is a challenge mentally to get to a level where you can conceptually keep up with what's going on. It's an ultra thought. It is. But I credit my years of competitive swimming, the hours and hours of swimming laps in pools, to help me get that level of patience. So part of it, but a lot of it too is just the fascination. By inclination, I am artistic, but I was always decent at math, but when it came to physics and the calculus, dynamics, differential equations, none of that stuff came easy, but just that discipline of sticking with things until you finally got good at them really paid off. And quite honestly, one thing that keeps me excited about this stuff is I'm constructively lazy. I'm always looking for the lazy way out, but you got to work hard to
get out of that.
Lazy. Yeah.
Right. Wow.
But the other thing, the other side of it is just
me.
that. Yeah, the other side of it.
That should be everybody.
I like the way my friend Ben Taylor puts it. I just want to work on cool shit and get paid for it. And I realize, wow, how many of us does that describe? That's
so Ben Taylor will probably come on to our show next month.
Excellent. Oh, you'll have a blast with him. He's hilarious.
Right. I love his LinkedIn post. I love all the funny things that he put up on LinkedIn. That constructive laziness. It's like a very, very good way to capture how we need to think that, right? Because you are working really hard to have some free time. And all this technology is supposed to give you free time. That's the reason we built this technology infrastructure and all this technology to give us more free time. Yet in the society that we live in today, I'm sure people will tell you over and over how much time they don't have, because there's more to do because of this technology that we actually do have in place. I think we take on more, and our brain naturally have the curiosity to say, you cannot just be lazy. You will just take on more as you're getting lazier. Right? You will do more actually with your brain, most likely using technology again, right? You built this new technology to engage with another technology so that other technology can build new technology. I think there's no superstition about AI. There's no mystery behind AI when you think of it that way, right? It's just a technology. You're just expanding your capability. You're augmenting your ability to do things with your free time. And what sort of free time you have is up to you to figure out. So thank you. Constructive laziness. That's the name of the show from now on.
Well, and it might even be hyper comedic to put it that way.
Right.
A lot of it comes down to, can I get rid of this mundane crap and put some bot, not just a robot, but some bot in its place to do this work for me? So I've actually had fun writing my own bots to do monotonous things online that I need to do.
Right.
That anytime, really, to me, the bigger circle that AI fits into is automation. I just love to automate things. That's why I've fallen in love with Python, because it can do so many different automation tasks.
And you teach. I see, you teach. You're a graduate from University of Texas Austin, Dallas resident. Currently in Idaho. I see all of that. So you're teaching. Like, what's the method of your teaching? Like, I think you're teaching a subject matter or topic. Like, what motivates you to teach, and how do you teach? What's your teaching style?
Oh, I think I was sharing with y'all in our pre-recording chit chat that I'm a big fan of the lawyer that Denzel Washington played in the almost 30-year-old movie Philadelphia, where Denzel Washington's playing a lawyer that's defending another lawyer that got wrongfully treated by his partners because he's gay and he contracts AIDS. And Denzel Washington would call an expert witness to the stand, and so that the jurors could really see the strength of the point that they were making in their case, he'd say, and explain it to me like I'm a fourth grader. And in my teaching, I really get tired of the by rote language that's used and repeated, teaching new students, and we just repeat the initial confusion. I'm wanting to say, how can I get these people to master this understanding of this subject faster than I did, less painfully than I did? That's always my goal. I don't always achieve it, and I don't think I'll ever perfect it. But if I get a little better at it each time I teach, I'm happy.
That's interesting. We've had these conversations, trying to identify or pigeonhole what AI is. And we ask this question to all of our guests. Typically, and depending on, what your experience is, you're going to give the answers are always going to be a little bit different. But
yeah,
for the most part, how do we identify AI and where do we start to identify it? Is it something that augments us like an arm, like an extra arm, or is it something that, like you said, takes over mundane tasks? Like, say, for example, is a cell phone a form of AI to you?
Uh, I- by the way, I don't have much patience with arguments over terminology, and especially I wish everyone would agree, hey, we're early in this data age. And it's going to be full of arguments over terminology. But to me, I'd rather speak on, look, again, I'm stealing from Ben. I just want to get paid to do cool shit. And part of that cool stuff is automation. Now, if someone says, hey, that's AI, oh, cool, whatever. You know, it's really about getting the job done better with less monotony. I want to really, AI should be seen as the deliverer of human monotony. For example, and let's borrow from another industry. When you go in and talk to people at a plant that are now being blessed by robotics, if you went in and said something to them like, okay, how many people lost their jobs when you brought in all these robots? They'd laugh in your face. No, we hired more people because we became more profitable and we were able to get more done. And now we need specialists to run these robots, and we might as well retrain the people that were here because they were
subject matter expert
and they were smart. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I think what people have to get in the spirit of understanding, the cheese will not stop moving. And those that are happy to keep learning, they're going to survive they're going to thrive in this new worldwide culture. But those that are upset that the world's changing, they're going to continue to be frustrated, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so I think I want to go back to your point about fourth grader, right? To the audience that are listening, I think they will appreciate that this also applies to a machine, for the machine learning. You have to look at a dumb data and say, how do I take this dumb data and make it do fascinating thing? But in between that fascination and dumb, it has to go through this learning curve like a fourth grader will, in order to learn what a fourth grader will learn, say, about stars and the moons and the complication of all the gas that are in the universe, right? So like, you know, how does it know from a small sample of this body that contains these gas that also exists in the universe, right? So if you go out into space, you know, the gas in your body, I'm using the gas very openly and widely, not really pointed out that this gas in your body, it's also available in space, but they react differently. So just because you have this gas in you, that don't mean out in an environment you can survive with this gas around you, right? So one of the gas example is helium. You know, you have helium in your body, just like you have helium out in the space. Right. So for you to have helium does not mean that you go out into space and hang out with heliums all day and be able to survive. Right. You will act differently. So when it comes to teaching a system from a fourth grader's perspective, you have to teach it all sorts of content plus the context. And this context is where things gets wild. Content is, you know, teach it how to read a book. Great. It reads a book, it reads it out loud, and it can transcribe it. It can write it with jumble of words, but it has no idea what the context of that book is, right? So if Ben Taylor made a statement about, I just want to do cool stuff and get paid for it, AI has no knowledge of that. AI doesn't know what getting paid does. Like, getting paid is to say, I get to have more free time in my life because I get paid. I am not entrenched in some manufacturing shop working 16 hours a day. What I would like to do is, you know, get paid for working 8 hours and enjoy the rest of the 8 hours with my family and go to sleep for another 8 hours and go back to work, right? So I'm going on about this because I really, really love the idea that you have to teach like in a fourth grader level, just like you have to teach a system with this complexity. Say, I know this much, but I cannot talk to everybody about this much because I will lose them, right? I will not be able to explain to them the fact that these data have content and context behind it. And in order to get the context, you cannot just rely on our context. We have to get other people's input, right? So the subject matter expert that's sitting in the manufacturing shop floor that used to be fearful about robot taking over, Now they're super happy that the robot has taken over. There's a huge context. There's a lot of history behind it. There's a lot of data set that goes behind it, right? I'm just gonna throw this in there real quick. Like everything we want to teach a system, it already exists. It's just where do you go find it and how do you make it worth your time is a different discussion.
Absolutely, yeah. Getting a system trained is the real battle when we talk about the AI realm. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of history, can you just give us some history and understanding of your experience in developing AI and where you're at now?
Oh,
with
I'd
AI?
love to, because there's some comical things in that history. My favorite. So I'm an old guy now. You can tell by the color of my hair, which is, I'm not sure there is a color. That's white.
This is more like a Matt Damon look.
We're just seasoned. We're just seasoned well.
That's right. There you go.
This is one of those looks that are like a Matt Damon look. You know, it doesn't really look old. It just looks like you like Matt Damon now.
No, thank you. But
this
someone will say to me,
"We're in. This look that we have, this great thing, we're in."
I
brother.
agree. I'm happy. I had a thought the other day. What if something in my diet changed my hair color back to my young hair color? I went, oh, I'd be very sad. So I agree with that. But seriously, someone will ask me, okay, what made you decide to switch from mechanical engineering to data science? And I always imagine myself saying, son, I was doing linear regression by hand in physics lab when I was a freshman. And really, I did my first machine learning problem in 10th grade when I was in algebra 2. I don't know what this language is about switching. You know, yeah, I have a PhD in mechanical engineering, therefore I do data science. And I never say it with that attitude, but I kind of want to, but I do explain, look, when you hear any engineer talk about empirical modeling, that is hardcore data science work. It's just with the physical realm, because we don't have enough information about the system to model it with first principle physics and differential equations. So even when you look at design of experiments, that's a hardcore area of machine learning, of data science. And so even when I was in grad school in the 90s, there was nothing called data science yet, but we had neural networks, expert systems, fuzzy logic. And I remember fondly, I had to code up my own neural network code, the backpropagation training, but I had to add the memory allocation. I had to add the management for the different size and number of layers of networks. I had to create the tensor management system with macros and everything. And thank God my advisor and I worked with the computer science department in robotics, because having to work with those guys forced us to learn to code well in C. And so, but I feel like somehow I missed my opportunity, because had I known data science was going to become such a thing and that I would love it, I might have tried to go into AI or neural network research with some of the stuff I was working on back then, because it was fascinating and fun. But fast forward, trying to apply whatever analytics would serve my needs in industry, I have never found that I needed to use deep learning or a neural network for a problem I was working on. Now, that's not to say I maybe didn't touch a pre-trained model for certain elements of a bigger AI system that I was building. But for the most part, just find the most practical thing that works. And a lot of times it's not a neural network. It might be XGBoost or something weird. I've even used just raw, pure, hardcore large matrices and linear algebra to solve sticky problems and do it very quickly. But that was at the blessing of scikit-learn and SciPy and stuff like that.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a fun ride. If I had gone into AI research, I might have had a whole different thing, but I ended up in industry trying to solve various problems with analytics, and that was equally challenging, I feel, because it was stuff that needed to be done and was practical and could put into immediate use.
I think what you're referring to, that the early statement about like, hey son, you know, what you're talking about, me coming into the data science. I've been doing data science before data science was even cool, right? I think that's super, super important for people to grasp, is that the conversation we're having today on the matter of ethics behind AI, machine learning, safety, security, and privacy, all these topics that doesn't really get baked into that cool, shiny thing on top of the mountain or at the end of the life cycle of a project, to say like, oh, we created a product, but did you think about safety? No. Did you think about security? No. Did you think about privacy? Did you think about all these components, right? I think I've used this number multiple times, is that, you know, 83% of the AI that is being developed, they do not go into production. They develop, they design it, they develop it, but they do not release it to production, because at the end of the life cycle, they realize it's not worth it, because they might get caught up in some situation where AI might even turn into a lawsuit, or AI might turn into some damaging PR stunt, right? So this kind of conversations that we're having is important, because you have to understand where people are coming from. The people that will design these AI machine learning for you, you have to involve wide variety of people in order to develop and design. And when you're in design phase specifically, you have to take that human in the loop concept very seriously, to the point that you have somebody like mechanical engineer. So yes, there's a data scientist in the room, but he's a stat professor or he's a stat guy. You know, all he does is stat. It's like asking for a doctor that, you know, needs to fix your bones, but you have a psychiatrist in the room, right? Yeah, got it. Both doctors, both wearing a scrub, but at the same time, they're not going to be able to perform or think at the same level. So this engineering stuff that you just mentioned, I mean, look, first thing I think about when I think about engineers is feedback, the feedback loop, right? I went to cybersecurity. I was in the military for a long time. I did military security and all this kind of stuff. I live through feedback continuously, but I don't think about feedback, because I was never an engineer. I don't think about it as an engineer about feedback. If I have to do anything, you have to create anything, I will always consider what is the feedback loop of this production or this design or this development that I'm working on, because everything in the universe is based on feedback loop, right? So for me, like if you bring me in for a design part of your situation, I probably will recommend you something that will not come from an engineer's mouth. Engineers will say it differently, right? And they'll probably will have that feedback loop built into it. And I love engineers because of this kind of feedback loop thinking. As in, when you design, you don't design so people can use it. You design it so it has some accuracy built into it, some resiliency built into it. That ability to have like reliability before it gets to production is built into it. So I think this is the conversations that we are having so often and a lot, but just in a lesson learned kind of an environment, right? Rather than being proactive, we're reactive. We're like, yeah, we should have had Thom in the room speaking about mechanical engineering. Because, well, we'll start, you know, I think I mentioned to you earlier about semiconductor chips, right? My goodness. How often do you think about the semiconductor chip? How often do you think about the future of semiconductor chips, your shortages of semiconductor chips? You don't think about that as you're designing. So if you're designing this grand escape of like AI, but you don't have anybody to describe semiconductor chips and transistors' ability to do your machine learning for you, and how you're going to scale that transistor to say, do the next level of machine learning, you need Thom. You don't need people like me talking about, oh, cybersecurity this, cybersecurity that, right? Or I went to school for conflict resolution. I will talk about human conflict with you all day long, but I cannot talk to you about transistors, or at least not the way that Thom would, or Thom will be able to draw a picture that I can, you know?
You know, speaking to some of the excellent points you made, and if people wanted to hear this in more detail, just look up my name with Greg Coquillo, Coquillo.
He's with AWS, correct?
Correct. Well, Amazon. But Amazon. I do think it might be a part of AWS. We're good friends. We're like brothers. We've done this talk together. We've affectionately call it return on data, but it's about better collaboration between data science and business leaders. And I think the big problem is business leaders, I'm going to blame both sides, myself included. Business leaders are looking at data science as a cool, shiny new thing to add, that if they don't, they're going to get behind. And I don't think it's going to work well that way. In fact, I think it's more likely to fail. I don't think it's good to think about how many machine learning projects make it into production. That's the wrong focus. The right focus is to say, okay, this is a new age. And if we don't integrate this, completely redesign our business to be data inclusive. I'm avoiding saying data driven because it still needs to be human driven. It's just, it should be data guided. And I remember being invited to be a part of startups and quickly realizing, you are not getting it. You invited me because this is going to be a data company. You're treating your current business plan, your current approach like your baby. And you brought data to the table too late. Unless you completely revamp everything, this isn't going to work like you want it to. And I've had to excuse myself multiple times because they don't get that. But here's what I'm saying. Rather than looking for getting a machine learning project into production, have this spirit. Are we getting a return on our data? Where is the low-lying fruit? How can we take just dashboards that give us actionable information? For example, one of the points Greg and I make in our talk, why is it important to I wouldn't say avoid neural networks, but a spirit of, oh, if a neural network will give us the best predictions, we'll use that. But that doesn't mean we're not going to use other models to help us understand the process better. A neural network hides certain information, but linear regression, which has been around for a couple of centuries now, well, that's how old machine learning is how long that's been around, and even longer. So it's a spirit of saying, well, if I scale all my features correctly and I train this model well, this linear regression model may not be the one I use to predict things, but it's telling me which features are most important. And I would think the business leadership would want to know that, because that's something you can act on that will change things. That's proactive knowledge. And then if they start improving things, that'll scurry the data scientists to continue to close that feedback loop, basically, because they see, oh, we got to go train new models now because they changed the features. Oh, that's great. That's the scenario you really want to get into.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've got a little bit of experience in the data science area. I've put together warehouses back in early 2000s, and I started putting together linear regression models and predictive models before this AI or machine learning. I just thought that I was developing data science tools and creating better forms of presenting data.
Dashboard.
Dashboards, exactly. Analytics, giving people the right. Back in my day, it was called cubing data. I don't know if you did any of that, but for the most part, yeah. And you're right. At the end, you want to be able to not try to aim for AI, I think, and I'm seeing a lot of that out there now. They got the AI buzzword itch. And it's becoming, the market's bubbling now. All of a sudden now you've got all these different organizations and all these third-party people claiming they have, artificial intelligence. And I think we need to slow it down a little bit. You're right. I think that we need to look at ourselves and say, okay, what do we really need? What type of statistical model, what type of forecasting, what type of predictive models can we benefit from our data? What in the data are we missing that these models are going to enlighten us or help us see, as opposed to saying, look, we need AI because we've got this fund now, the government's providing funding. If you say that you have AI in production and operations, then we get dollars and cents, and we get the feathers, and we get the peacock. No, that's going too far. I think that we need to step back and say, okay, where are the true benefits of statistical modeling that we can really gain, and where can we jump into it easier? I hate to say easier, but in some cases you have structured data and you have unstructured data. Where can you have just a short win, a small win, to see how these models work, and then you can start to develop your organization. And that's where I'm working now. I work for, and I won't get into too much, but I work for the VA. And so
Oh, good. Excellent.
everybody's trying to do something, and I'm trying to be the word, just common sense when it comes to driving this new thing called AI, because they're just either they're not interested and it's a scary, Terminator, Skynet, or one, it's so easy that we can do it, and now it's through Python and TensorFlow, and we can do it, but we're not sure how it works, but we know that we want it. This is just two different schools, and typically the PhDs are going to be like, yeah, this is easy, we can do this, we just assign it to this, and we can start getting data. Well, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in between there. But I agree with you. I think AI is a welcomed benefit.
Let's continue our mutual admiration club here. Talk for a minute, Lucky. I love what you're saying, and here's why. Just because Pareto was a genius and he recognized the 80-20 principle doesn't mean it always applies. For example, most data scientists will tell you, when someone says, well, we spend 80% of our time cleaning and preparing the data and 20% developing the predictive modeling, well, we all know that's bullshit. The ratio is a lot worse than that. It's more like 95-5. The modeling's been made so easy, but the data preparation is the real work. And that's why a lot of people drop out. They're like, I thought it was going to be this sexy modeling stuff. No, there's a lot of,
CSV files.
And acquiring, where's Excel? Yeah, we don't like that. That's inefficient. And it's not, I'm not anti-Excel or spreadsheet, but the spirit is, wow, let's say it's actually 90-10, which is still not close enough. But I think 90% of the value comes from 90% of the work, and 10% of the value comes from 10% of the work. That's it. I don't mean to be anti-Pareto. I'm just being realistic. Why do I say that? Let's go through the pipeline. Okay, you're acquiring your data. Well, was it easy to get the data? No. Well, then go and politely scream bloody ass shit to say, why is it so hard for me to get this data? I want you to fix this. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, you know what? The data's dirty. I bet we have a data management system for entering this data, don't we? Well, why are you allowing null values here? Stop that. Okay. Because that's screwing up our pipeline. It's costing us money. Okay, so we do all this. Now we put some checks in that data management system that make sure those values are reasonable and we're not entering erroneous values. And we could go on and on, but once we get that fixed, we're growing our data assets astronomically. Okay, and we want to get to a part where producing the models is easy, but when we get down to feature selection and we can automate that, and we get down into the feature engineering and we can automate that, we are gaining some real knowledge of processes when we do that. But there's not, I am one of the few preachers on this to say, guys, we need to talk about this. It's not just about the predictions. It's about the pipeline and the value you can get from it. And people that have really taken this to heart and learned it from me, they've become top data scientists in their roles and transform the things they're doing in their companies. And it's been really gratifying to see that all I needed to do was speak out about some basic convictions about the damn pipeline, but then a lot of people will, like you're saying, Lucky, and I think you were getting on it too, Asa, this new shiny thing. Okay, PCA. Okay, PCA is pretty cool, but why would you use it? And what burden of explainability is it putting back on you when you use it? And do you know how to cover that burden of explainability like you would have to do with the neural network? And so when people start to get the depth of understanding of why each step in the process is key, they're able to give more value back to their companies.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky probably heard me say it, but I want to point out like two things, but three steps on each, right? When I see the whole world and I separate out who are these organizations, right? I think of people that are not even thinking about AI and organization wise, and the organizations that are working on AI. And the third part is the governments, because governments are neither in AI or know about AI. They're both. They're like, well, we're not really using AI. We have some AI, but not high amount of use case, right? So we have like very little use cases because governments are wide in variety. Where commercial side, they have like, we're Coca-Cola, we do drinks, right? And we have AI machine learning. Or we are this group in somewhere on the other side of the world that has like a lot of retail business about drinks, but we don't know anything about AI machine learning yet. Like we know about data, but we don't know AI machine learning. So I see these three different organizations and three different types of organization. One that I think will benefit most, what I'm about to say next, is the governments, right? Because commercial side, they have quarterlies, right? Quarterlies that are like, if AI is not going to support my quarterly income, why even bother? Got it. I'm not going to talk to you at all. I'm not even pointing at you at this point. I don't even want to have you listen to what I'm about to say. But if you're an AI organization that is quarterly based, you have quarterly motivations, okay, you probably don't have to listen to this part, but you should, right? But the government, on the other hand, can do this because government doesn't have quarterly ambitions. It just has a fiscal year budget that it has to work off of. What we are talking about as far as shining things on top of the mountain is technology or solution or whatever the case is. So let's talk about that solution as a technology, which is one of the three pieces that we are really focused on right now. And I think all three of us are actually talking about stepping back a little bit, right? So this is how you step back as a government agency. You stop thinking about technology and solution. You start identifying what's actually important that you already have, which is the people, right? Who's going to take over this AI project as person, the people that's sitting on the chair right now in this conference room, listening to AI topics, understanding AI topics, has interest in AI topics? How do you retain or train them? Or how do you train a bunch of people so that way the knowledge is being shared within this ERG, the employee research group, and take that employee research group to give birth to a process rather than a technology? Because when we talk about data-driven data innovations all days, what we want to become is not a data culture anymore, but an AI culture. Because we've tried data culture for a while. So when you have these people identified, have these people label a process for you and let that process give birth to a solution. Because if you already have a solution in mind, these people will only give you what you want, rather than empowering themselves to look deep into their ability to say, I work for VA, I know VA process, I know VA culture, I know how VA moves, I know VA's budget, I know VA technology, I know all these ingredients that I need in order to put all this together with few nodes here and there and say, I'm gonna build a process for you. And this process will sustain itself way beyond the solution and technology, right? So government agencies can do that. And I think people, process, and technology is the three terminologies that I will use. Say people, process, identify that, step back, go back to people, have them give birth to a process, and let that process be the technology driver.
This going back to explaining it like a fourth grader, like I'm a fourth grader. I want to do that right now. It's this spirit. Hey, I just want to make our business more effective, more profitable. That this isn't about tacking on shiny new clever things that are going to magically transform our profits in a quarter. In fact, I've entered stupid companies that after I joined was a smart, good mentality CEO was placed with an idiot. And it was just a spirit of, wow, I should have seen this sooner. This new CEO doesn't have a proper mentality towards data, but it's this spirit. It has to be integrated. You have to recognize it as, this isn't a, what is the return in this quarter thing? This is a, if we don't do this, we will become obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
because the smarter
Blockbuster. Say it again. Blockbuster.
Thank you. Yes. I would have used that exact example. They couldn't believe that their brick and mortar drive to the place approach would ever go away. They kept finding new ways to steal our money when we walked into their stores with, well, it's more convenient to just get this microwave popcorn here and these drinks here than to go on ahead and walk 100 more feet over to the grocery store that's right near this Blockbuster show. And then, yeah, I got lazy. I got tired of the late fees, and
late
Netflix.
Fees.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Rewind. That was worse. Rewinding was worse.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Rewind fee. But the point being is, it's got to quit being, well, I'm going to keep doing the business I understand, but I better tack on this data science, machine learning, AI stuff, or otherwise we'll get lost in the dust. You've already lost because you haven't made a commitment to integrate your data scientists, to bring them to the table, or at least bring a representative of them to the table. It needs to be a spirit of understanding each other, talk to each other like your fourth graders and get this understood, get it implemented. But I want to really encourage the data scientists to have a spirit of, remember, you're talking to your grandmother. When you're talking to a business leader, that means you're talking to someone you should show immense respect to and appreciation to. They're very smart, but they may not know your terminology or what you know. That doesn't mean they're not really, really smart. So it's a spirit of, let me make this clear to you. But I think the data scientists are still figuring out, how do we give value? And the reason I put so much emphasis on data visualization and data storytelling is because when we do good work there, even as data scientists, we prepare better machine learning. Now, let's make a point clear. I bet you two would agree with this. Have I done many traditional machine learning projects for the companies I've worked at? I have not. They've been weird crap, really weird things. Like, this is the problem. I got to use I have a black belt in Taekwondo. No bragging, just for illustration. And we practice these forms. There's several forms we have to know. And by the way, I am not the best sparrer in the world. And my master instructor, when I was working toward my black belt, I would have to spar him, and he was 4th degree, and he was an excellent sparrer, even against other higher belts, and they, feared him. But because I practiced my high blocks several times, when he tried to hook kick my head, I would throw my arm up, and because of our height difference, he would fall to the floor. But that was muscle memory. And, that's a very basic thing. Guys, data scientists, please get good at Kaggle or those competitions, learning the basics of clean, the pipeline, all the aspects of it. Because then when you encounter those weird projects, you'll have the conceptual knowledge to have a clue of coming up with something clever that just works. So keep pushing yourself. But I would say every project still was benefited from that experience of understanding the basics of modeling very well.
And
it's almost like you got to be an investigator. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. Lucky.
Please go ahead.
That's well put.
Yeah, I mean, like Kevin Mitnick had like the ghost in the lines or the ghost in the wires. It's almost like you got to find the ghost in the data. You got to find. You got to really investigate and figure out, who we are, and once we know what we are, what can we model against? And it's not going to be simple. It's going to take a little bit of time, but definitely you got to find the ghost in the data. You got to really spend the time to know and become more. And say a good example. I'm looking to grow machine learning in the VA, but I'm looking to find. I'm looking to make my job easy. I'm looking for the most structured bit of data that I can find, and then I want to analyze the data and see where the areas are, the opportunities are for data modeling. It's not just,
Lucky.
hey, we're modeling data, we're going to make this happen. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, forgive me for this.
Yeah.
So first, I want to borrow from an old Budweiser commercial that was popular when I was younger. I'm going to start out my counterpoint to you by saying this. I love you, man. By the way, you guys can't see Lucky.
I thought you were going to say, what's up?
What's up?
Lucky is very aerodynamic. He has this super cool studio in his background look. And I want to challenge your thinking, Lucky.
Yeah.
I want you to say, what data assets am I missing? In other words, have a projection that says, I want to be able to do these things for my company, but some of those projects may just depend on a good set of data assets that you need, that you don't have yet. And I think we need to be looking at it that way too, to say, you know, it could be just a dashboard or some visualizations, or a combination of dashboards with visualizations would answer 80% of our needs. And then occasionally we might need some machine learning. But I think what you were really meaning to say is, how can I grow my data assets to better serve the VA?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
And if I may, that it's like cleaning the house so the guest can come in, right? If you don't have your data structure, if you don't have your AI culture, if you don't have that AI knowledgeable employees or teams of ERGs, employee resource group, or if you don't have your room set up so people can bring in their AI technology so you can engage with them, right? So what am I babbling about, right? There's going to be speech to text AI. There's going to be text to speech AI. There's going to be computer vision AI. There's going to be all sorts of AI that you don't have the capability to adapt to today. But that's your ultimate failure in the future if you don't have the ability to adapt quickly. So you don't have to necessarily go into the route of like, I need to have a computer vision AI that can drive itself in my VA facility. Like what? Oh, no. That's not the point here. Point is to have that AI that can adapt. First of all, your people have to adapt. Second of all, your process has to be in line with all the other AI that will come into your house, which is that if you have a fleet of cars that are picking up patients and dropping off patients using no drivers, okay, how does the AI interact with that, right? What sort of dashboard do you bring into the VA to control those vehicles and have this vehicle scheduled and, you know, not leak out information about the patient through those mobile vehicles that are driving themselves, right? So that's the future we're heading into, where we will have AI-driven cars. We will have speech-to-text AI that is able to say, you know, just because me and Lucky had a conversation inside of a VA facility and both consensually agreed that we're being recorded, and our recording takes notes, provides us with better record of like what medicine was described and how the medicine should be taken. So that way, instead of me calling a nurse every 80 hours to say like, I forgot what happened last 80 hours ago, you know, now I know exactly what I'm supposed to do because it's handwritten, if not on a recorded voice somewhere, that tells me this is how you take the medicine. This is how much medicine you take. This is where you go to take the medicine. You know, it's just adapting to the AI.
Let me try the fourth grader comment to this excellent discussion. I know my biggest failing to the businesses I've worked with in the past, and I mean this sincerely and seriously, was Thom, we don't need something really cool and shiny right now. I'm kind of speaking to the situation. We just needed this. And I was always thinking of how to push my skills instead of how to better serve the business. Now, let me get it even more. Let me go to second grader. I didn't drink enough beer with my buddies. Here's what I mean by that. After work, outside of the bullshit politics at these companies, hopefully you've made friends with some of the business leaders. And you go out with them just for a beer. You say, I want to know something. I want my skills to make a difference here. What keeps you up at night about our business that maybe data could help solve?
That's right.
Now, we're not saying oh, I want to go use my cool hardware you've given me or these cool software programs. No, just tell me what keeps you up at night. Well, it might just be a dashboard that automatically updates daily for this guy that gives him or her the information they need. Right. Well, that's best discovered over a beer rather than through some emails that could go political and territorial in no time. Yeah. And I've learned all that the hard way. Because you start asking certain questions in an email string and people think you're stepping on their toes. But if you go out with your buddy, yeah, he's a VP and you're an individual contributor, but he's still your buddy. Just go out for a beer and say, what's keeping you up at night? And really solve that problem instead of gratifying your lust to learn something advanced. Do that on your own time. But then what happens after you've gained their trust of, wow, Thom did a really simple solution, even though he's got all these skills, and it's really helping us. Well, eventually they're going to say, hey, Thom, what do you think we should do next? I'll go work on it. But what I've had to learn the hard way, and I sucked at learning this, by the way, develop really small incremental deliveries. Don't try to give them, you know, the next great thing in AI. Just say, oh, I think we need to take this small step. Wow. Thank you. What you think is a tiny step, they usually will think is a huge step. And by the way, for those of you in the audience that can't see me, I have complete gray hair. And that has been caused by all the hard lessons I've learned in my career. Now, Lucky's had it harder because they all went gray and then he lost them. I can tell you, Shane.
Yeah, this is what happens when you become the data scientist early in life. I went through that whole scenario you just covered. I started with the pharmacy warehouse. That was great. And then I had a few conversations with some pharmacists and doctors and researchers. And from there, I transformed my pharmacy warehouse into analyzing disease states and developing predictive models. And that, honestly, I shouldn't have had that beer that you're talking about with, because it created so much more work. But at the end, there's this fantastic a fantastic service is being done to the VA, being performed through data, and it's not AI. It's old-fashioned, just figuring out what exactly, and you hit it on the nose. Everyone wants to be a data scientist or an AI something or other now. I think what you are is a decision scientist. You help, in a sense, and development. It's hard to kind of pigeonhole you because you're just all over the place, but you help people make the right decisions with technology.
I don't like labels, Lucky. I like saying,
okay, I get that.
I'd rather just be noted as Thom's passionate, analytical geek that just wants to make things better. You know,
make things better.
Give me that label, please.
I like that. I like
data science, AI guy, you know, multi-physics, you know, simulator, all that's cool jargon. But at the end of the day, no, I just really want to solve problems effectively for the groups I serve. I want to be I want to be a hero, but I want to help the other people that are junior to me learn how to be heroes too, so they don't learn the hard, crappy lessons I learned. They serve the company better earlier than I did.
Can I pick up a label for myself? I think I got it from this episode. I just want to be lazy, actually. I do. Lazy means I get to spend time with my 2 kids.
Yes.
Lazy means I get my weekends free. Lazy means, you know, I don't have to rush into Monday morning with all sorts of scenarios that, you know, nobody's helping me with, that I have to take care of by myself. So I want to be part of a team. I want to be able to make income, and I want to have that comfort of being lazy. And AI machine learning, beyond automation, does a whole lot of things that augments me to do better. If I can augment myself to do more and have an extension of me that gives me those dashboard level information, and prepares me with early detection, gives me insight, automates processes for me, prioritize what I need to know, teaches me think very well. I mean, one of the guests that we're going to have in the future and coming weeks is a person that works for a group that develops the educational AI. So that AI learns the content and context, creates quiz, helps the teacher to create this quiz, helps the teacher to teach that content to the student, and the students can use that AI to learn the content very well so they can pass the quiz without, like 8 hours in their life. They can learn all this content within an hour, right? Lazy. That's the label I want, lazy. So we're coming to the end of the conversation here. I just want to point out that, Thom, you must come back and talk about semiconductor chips. We just have to have you come back. Please come back.
Now that's interesting. I'm not really, I'm okay at talking about semiconductors, but I have
the hardware piece of it. Yeah, hardware piece of it. Sure.
I have a friend that doesn't get enough press. His name's Paul Perez, and he's one of the most genius semiconductor designers I've ever come across. And he's more hardcore than me when he, the way really? He will talk in a good way. I love talking to him, but I almost feel like, compared to him, I'm like holding back. And
do you act differently around him? No, I'm just kidding.
And Paul will laugh if he heard me say this. I feel like I'm overwhelmed around him. I'm not sure I get as chance to talk as I want. He's got to be listened to.
I will tell you, Thom. So around you, I am acting differently. I can tell you that because I feel that insecurity, and that is so true in data science.
I wish you wouldn't.
Yeah, like because around certain people, you feel like this is the time I have to ask this question. This is the limited time I got. I gotta get these questions out. So my insecurity is like, prioritize these questions. So now I'm thinking to myself, like, where's that AI that would prioritize my question for me? So that way it pings me on the back, like, hey, ask that question before you forget.
One thing I do when I'm teaching and mentoring, I absolutely insist they call me Thom, because I think, no, we're both learners. I'm going to learn from you. You don't realize how much I will learn from you too, but I want them to absolutely feel like they can ask me anything, not be embarrassed to ask their questions. So it's absolutely my goal for no one to be intimidated by me or think that I'm greater than them. In fact, I tell my mentees, listen, it is my goal to ensure you become what I know you can become, a better data scientist than me, because the world was ancient when I was your age. And we're starting at a more advanced state. So if you just have these traits, which usually comes down to patience and consistency and not taking things personally when you're around hyper harsh people, but just filtering that out and taking what nugget of truth you can to get better, just keep growing, you will be. But if you get hyper dramatic about every incident that happens and you get your feelings hurt too much, you're going to slow your growth down. So please, just understand it's what we all go through. But I don't want people to feel intimidated around. I want them to feel like I can go have a beer with this guy.
And that's what that's exactly what I was going to say. I don't know where we're going to have the beer, but I'm hoping that it'll be soon. All three of us in the Dallas area sometime, or maybe Idaho. Who knows? Because Idaho will have some semiconductor chips coming into Idaho as well. The part about the insecurity.
Let's agree on one thing. Actually, there's only one type of beer I like, and it's from China, and we're not likely to get it. So let's just go out for Mexican food instead.
There you go. I'm not much of a drinker, so I love Mexican food.
Me too.
Same here. We all agree to that. But
and Thom, you're a man after my own heart, man. Everything that you've covered today, I resonate with. So I'm in tune with you, my friend.
Well, then you obviously, as soon as I said Mexican food, you were thinking of the place we don't have up here in the Boise area of Idaho, which is Pancho's Mexican Buffet. Raise the
I don't know.
flag, get more food.
Food. That jumped in my head immediately when you said that.
We don't have that up here, but we do have, if y'all come up here, we have a place to die for that. And I don't mean that this is the only way a Mexican food place can be authentic and good, but it's only Mexicans that work there. And I'm friends with all of them. When we come in, it's like we're family to them. Oh, Thom and Sue.
Those places are hard to find. Even to this day, they're few and far between. So hold them and hold them tight because they're disappearing quickly. You know, with COVID and just some places aren't making it. Those places are hard to come by. So definitely, if we're in town, I would love to come by there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Tex-Mex is great, but it ain't authentic Mexican.
Yeah.
We just had some yesterday, and I'm telling you, there's a difference between real and the one that you don't like. Because the real one is like, I want just a real one. I don't want this like and not like. I want the real one. Like and like is not a problem here.
Agreed,
But
agreed.
I want to follow up with Lucky. What Lucky said, you know, Thom, like, look, that part about being intimidated and feeling insecure is coming from a respect. Right. I respect you so much from the LinkedIn post that I see, all the things that you're involved in teaching and educating people. That comes from a respect. So when you respect somebody, it's okay to feel intimidated by them because you want to be able to, you know, get to that point of yourself, maybe like being that respected. Right. So it comes from the respect. So
thank you. Yeah,
we did it.
But I've just got to emphasize, Asif, I'm a team mountain climber. When you're climbing as a team, you're more safe. You can get higher. If you're a solo mountain climber, it's very dangerous and lonely, and you're eventually going to die.
And how do you say AyAyAyAi when you're on top of that mountain?
Oh, I sing it like I sang it for y'all at the beginning.
Sing it again. Okay. we got to catch that recording.
Oh, we didn't do. Okay. I am the geeko bandito.
That is awesome.
You know, when I do finally launch the business side of integrated machine learning and AI, I don't want us to have CEO, CTO, all that. I just want to be founding geek.
Founding geek. I like that label. With that, Lucky, what you you're the last word man.
No, thank you. He said it all. Thank you.
I had a blast with y'all. I'd be happy to come back anytime. Yeah, and if I'm in Dallas, we'll do live. We'll do
absolutely.
Yeah, I got a studio here.
Yeah.
AyAyAyAi.
AyAyAyAi.